Forget everything you've heard. Freddy Dodge just drilled straight into a hidden vein worth $2.7 million. The so-called ghost vein that vanished for decades. This secret strike changes the game, and the gold rush has a new hero. What it hit wasn't just a streak of gold. It was a full-on pocket of untouched pay dirt, laced with high-grade ore that's shocking even the most seasoned geologists. One core sample alone came back at over 3 ounces per ton. That's not luck. That's genius. Freddy Dodge didn't just strike gold, he struck legend. This discovery could change everything we thought we knew about the region, and it's just the beginning. Don't miss a second of this gold rush shocker. Smash that like button, subscribe. It started with a package. The package arrived without warning. No return address, no name, just a battered burlap sack tied with oil-stained twine and sealed with cracked wax. Postmarked from Nome, Alaska, the envelope seemed ancient but was strangely pristine against the thawing Yukon spring. Freddy Dodge stared at it in silence for several long seconds, a chill running down his spine despite the warmth of the cabin's flickering lantern light. Inside, wrapped in yellowed parchment, lay a miner's ledger, fragile, brittle with age. The leather-bound journal's spine was cracked, and its pages creaked as Freddy carefully flipped through them, revealing decades-old graphite sketches, faded ink maps, and coordinates scribbled in margins alongside cryptic notes. The handwriting was jagged but unmistakable. This was no ordinary logbook. It was something far more personal, a secret whispered through generations. His eyes caught a name scrawled hastily on the back flap: Abraham L. Dodge, his great-great-uncle, a prospector who vanished during the feverish Yukon gold rush of 1899, lost to history without a trace. Family stories had always painted Abraham as a man cursed by fortune. Disappeared in the wilderness, swallowed whole by the mountain's mysteries. But here was evidence that perhaps the story was just beginning. The ledger's margins contained puzzling notes. Glints beneath stone. 3 teams lost to the seam. Vein moved, we didn't. And then a faded line, barely legible. X gold, X price gate. Freddy felt his heartbeat quicken. A torn corner exposed a graphite map beneath the ledger's surface. The line didn't run straight. It curved unnaturally, slicing through igneous formations like a knife through butter, and trailed toward a spot ominously labeled Zone 6F. Government files later confirmed Zone 6F as a no-go area, marked inadvisable, a patch of land near Dawson City shrouded in silence and superstition. The Yukon was no stranger to legends, but this was something else. This was a puzzle deliberately left buried. Freddy knew he couldn't ignore it. Quietly, he filed a claim, using a dusty legal loophole buried deep within the 1947 Klondike Restoration Act, a relic from post-war legislation meant to revive abandoned assay zones. The claim targeted Zone 6F, a place where no sane miner had dared tread for over a century. Within 24 hours, alarms went off. 3 shell companies, all dormant since the 1920s, filed counterclaims. Strangely, each had been reactivated the same week Freddy submitted his application. Their corporate officers were ghostly names, linked to offshore trusts with no clear ownership. Someone was watching. Someone had known all along. Freddy said nothing to the press. Instead, he called on 2 trusted allies: Hector Rivas, an ex-military geotechnician with expertise in seismic warfare, known for reading tremors few could detect, and Chelsea Tan, an underground recovery specialist famed for mapping uranium tunnels beneath Mongolia using only vibration data. No cameras, no Discovery Channel crew. Just the 3 of them and the mountain's secrets. They deployed LiDAR drones at dawn. The scan uncovered something impossible. Beneath a collapsed glacier shelf, likely a casualty of the 1958 Fairweather earthquake, was a buried canyon. And through that canyon ran a vein not linear, but spiraling. Over 4.6 kilometers long, it twisted and turned in a way defying all known geological rules. Even more baffling, the vein bent subtly toward magnetic north, against the natural grain of surrounding rock formations. Chelsea studied the printouts in disbelief. "This isn't a vein," she murmured. "It's a signal." Freddy grinned, half dreading what that meant. No standard commercial drill could break the basalt and quartzite here. The rock was too dense, too erratic, so Freddy uncrated his secret weapon, the Ghost Core drill, a prototype he'd built in months of clandestine work. Equipped with sub-zero shock absorbers, titanium flex drill bits engineered for ultimate torque, and acoustic sensors fine-tuned to detect seismic anomalies at depths exceeding 2,000 feet. The first two bits shattered against the basalt. The third, a custom diamond-impregnated bit, cut through like butter until the core sample emerged, glowing faintly with an unnatural metallic sheen. The quartzite was super-dense, pressed by impossible geological forces. Yet inside the sample, the team found something that stopped them cold. Mineral assays showed gold concentrations of 41.7 grams per ton, nearly double what's typically considered profitable. But more astonishing were the 11.4 grams per ton of platinum and trace amounts of tellurium and osmium, exotic metals more common near meteor impact sites than the Yukon bedrock. Even stranger, the core sample's electromagnetic profile pulsed faint electric currents strong enough to fry Freddy's data modem. The uplink failed repeatedly. Switching to analog instruments, old-school voltmeters twitched wildly, recording irregular voltage spikes. Juan, manning the comms, heard something else entirely. Not static, not interference. Morse code. A single haunting phrase repeated over and over, "Protect it." The words hung in the cold air like a warning. As the drill pushed deeper, the mountains seemed to shift around them. Seismic tremors, small but persistent, rattled the rig. Water seeped through cracks, cold and strangely metallic on their skin. Then, deep in the shaft, they found a hollow cavity. It was unnatural, too smooth to be a cave, too uniform to be natural. Carefully, they drilled through the cavity wall and uncovered a chamber shored up by century-old timbers, blackened with soot and age. Inside, relics of a forgotten mining crew lay scattered: rusted shovels, fractured lanterns, a Winchester rifle barrel, and a brass plate stamped with the words "Property of the Sable Syndicate." Freddy's pulse quickened. The Sable Syndicate, a shadowy cartel of miners and speculators who'd controlled Yukon goldfields through the early 1900s before vanishing mysteriously during the Great Depression, along with over 27,000 ounces of missing gold. The implications were staggering. What had Abraham Dodge stumbled into? Was this the same vein that swallowed the syndicate's fortune and the lives of those who sought it? That night, the camp fell silent except for the low hum of generators and the distant howl of the Yukon wind. Freddy sat alone, eyes fixed on the flickering shadows cast by his headlamp, grappling with the unsettling thought that the ghost vein was more than just gold. It was a warning carved into the very bedrock beneath them. But warnings demanded answers. By dawn, Freddy's team was back at work, drilling carefully into the depths of the newly discovered chamber to relieve dangerous pressure buildup. As the drill bit slowly ground through the dense quartzite, the unexpected happened. Fragments of collapsed timber began to fall into the shaft, followed by the unmistakable shape of human bones. Illuminated by their narrow beams, a hand-hewn tunnel revealed itself, long sealed by fallen timbers and centuries of debris. The past was not done with them yet. Freddy ordered a halt while Chelsea and the forensic team worked to document and recover what lay within. The bones were brittle but intact enough to be dated. Carbon testing confirmed the remains were over 120 years old, perfectly coinciding with the disappearance date of Abraham Dodge and the lost mining crews whispered about in family lore. The evidence was irrefutable. These were the forgotten miners trapped by their own desperation and possibly something else. Inside the tunnel, 6 rusted mining carts lay toppled, their wheels frozen in place under a thick layer of dirt and grime. Scattered nearby were rusted shovels, broken pickaxes, and 3 antique Winchester rifle barrels, their once polished steel now pitted and blackened with age. A shattered lantern lay among the debris, its glass cracked but still harboring traces of mercury, an unusual finding hinting at the use of toxic substances in mining operations of the era. Among the detritus, a fragment of a journal page was discovered, written in hurried script. It moved again. We struck life or death. The chilling note sent a cold wave through the team. Freddy hypothesized that this tunnel was part of an early attempt by the Sable Syndicate to access the ghost vein, but that something forced them to seal off the passage in failure or fear. Days of excavation revealed the complexity of the Syndicate's operations. This was no mere mining effort, but a deliberate campaign of concealment and control. The ghost vein was not just rich ore, it was guarded by secrets buried in wood, bone, and whispered warnings from the past. Moving forward, Freddy and Chelsea employed ultraviolet light to scan exposed rock faces. What emerged beneath the glow was breathtaking, a filament-like ribbon suspended in the dark anthracite shale. The vein shimmered with an eerie, silvery blue light, unlike any natural mineral fluorescence they had ever seen. Samples collected were unlike anything in Yukon history. Laboratory assays revealed the filament was primarily electrum, a rare natural alloy of gold and silver, but with an astonishing 77% gold content, 20% silver, and 3% of trace elements that puzzle geologists worldwide. The presence of tellurium, osmium, and iridium suggested a meteoric or possibly synthetic origin. This was not merely a vein, it was a geological anomaly with properties bordering on the impossible. Water samples drawn from seepage near the vein carried ionized particles and an electrical charge inconsistent with natural water chemistry. Freddy, half joking to lighten the tension, said, "This vein isn't just gold, it's bleeding electricity." The implication was clear. They had stumbled upon something that defied all standard mining knowledge. From a mere 2 cubic meters of core material, assays returned astonishing totals: 113 ounces of gold, 44 ounces of electrum, and 6 ounces of platinum, equating to a staggering $417,000 in raw value. Freddy christened the discovery the Ghost Vein, declaring it a force that ran not through rock, but around the very laws that govern geology. But the discovery came with growing unease. Without warning, a black helicopter appeared, circling Freddy's camp twice before vanishing into the low clouds, unmarked and broadcasting no transponder signal. The presence was unmistakable. They were being watched. That night, seismic sensors triggered alarms. Security footage captured only static at the moments of intrusion, technology itself seemingly disrupted. Freddy's team found that the onboard navigation system for the drill had been tampered with. Someone had attempted to reroute the next drill run away from the ghost vein. Further inspection uncovered a sophisticated surveillance beacon embedded within the drill casing itself. Military-grade equipment, it transmitted precise location data every 30 minutes to an unknown recipient. Without hesitation, Freddy destroyed the beacon, shutting down all vulnerable equipment. To evade further interference, he ordered a relocation of operations 400 meters west into territory unregistered and beyond the reach of the Syndicate's shadowy influence. Every step deeper into the mountain uncovered more questions. The ghost vein was not merely a vein of precious metal, it was a guarded secret, and the watchers above made clear they intended to keep it buried. But Freddy Dodge had no intention of backing down. By the following morning, he and Chelsea had relocated the drill rig 400 meters west, outside the mapped claim zone, deep in unregistered territory. With the old drill run compromised and the ghost vein behaving more like a living system than inert geology, Freddy needed a new angle of attack. The sonar was subtle at first, a faint bounce-back signal just beyond the drill tip. But within minutes, the full profile emerged on Freddy's analog display, a dome-shaped cavity, nearly 38 feet below the relocated drill site. Too symmetrical to be a natural cave, too shallow to be an old chamber. Chelsea stared at the echo map, then traced her fingers over its smooth oval outline. "This isn't a void," she said. "It's a vault?" Freddy ordered the Ghost Core rig repositioned for micro-drilling. They approached the cavity from a reinforced angle, avoiding collapse. As the probe burrowed into the surrounding basalt shell, something strange happened. Their compasses, digital and analog, began spinning erratically. Static buzzed in their earpieces. Even the crew's body cams flickered, as if the air itself were charged. Chelsea reported internal thermal gradients rising near the drill, temperatures fluctuating wildly between sub-zero and +40 degrees Celsius within seconds, a phenomenon geologists call thermal shearing, but never in undisturbed bedrock. Freddy stood over the sensor array, watching as the numbers bent logic. The rock around the chamber was magnetic, not just iron-heavy, but actively distorting the field around it. The microprobe finally pierced the chamber wall. Inside, the fiber optic line showed dark water, still, reflecting the LED like glass. Then, shimmering beneath the surface, came the unmistakable gleam of gold. But not nuggets, not veins, structured gold. Chelsea confirmed it within hours. Stacked, flat, rectangular masses. Human-made. Processed, smelted, arranged. Possibly bullion. The thermal readings stabilized for only 2 minutes before the chamber began to flood. Cold water rising from unseen breaches. Freddy and Hector deployed the mini-rig hoist arm and began a precision extraction operation through the probe channel. Brick after brick came up from the flooded vault, some fused together by pressure and time, others still bearing stamp marks, an encircled S over crossed picks, the insignia of the Sable Syndicate. They recovered 17 bricks before the cavity collapsed under its own weight, swallowed by sudden subsidence. Water pressure spiked, flooding the microtunnel. The chamber was gone. Back on the surface, under halogen floodlights and freezing mist, the final tally was weighed and confirmed. 187 troy ounces of high-purity bullion, smelted in pre-modern kilns and bearing metallurgical signatures from 3 distinct origin types. Estimated raw value? Just over 2.1 million dollars. Combined with earlier assay totals, Freddy's unofficial haul now pushed past 2.7 million. And the deeper questions were only just surfacing. That night, the wind seemed to carry something unnatural through camp. The air was still, but full of pressure. Chelsea, while inspecting oxygen tanks in the safety tent, collapsed without warning. Her respirator levels showed full capacity, yet her blood oxygen saturation had dropped below 70%. She gasped for air like she'd been drowned in vacuum. They rushed her to the surface rig, barely reviving her in time. Hector's injury followed a day later. A routine drill run turned violent as the pressure rig bucked against the platform. A steel drill head snapped mid-bore, torn from the inside by something moving against the torque. The fracture pattern looked like an internal explosion, but there had been no detonation, no obstruction. Hector's right forearm was pinned between the drill's hydraulic arms. He escaped with 3 fractures and a dislocated elbow. Freddy stood in silence over the wreckage. It wasn't just the rock pushing back, it was the chamber. That night, his satellite phone, kept off-grid and encrypted, pinged. One message, no origin, no number. "You've gone too far." He held the phone in the dark for a long time before powering it off. Chelsea said nothing. Juan didn't even look up. By morning, another anomaly surfaced. Freddy's access credentials to the Yukon Land Claim database were revoked. Archives related to the Sable Syndicate disappeared from online records. Historical mining registry PDFs returned 404 errors. Someone was scrubbing the syndicate's name from every system they could reach. Chelsea, pale and shaken, suggested something Freddy had already begun to suspect. Whatever's down there, someone still wants it forgotten. Freddy doubled camp security, moved all documentation to cold storage, and installed motion-activated floodlights along the site perimeter. He staggered crew shifts, never letting more than 3 workers enter the bore zone at once. The dig had gone from historic to haunted. As weeks passed, more puzzle pieces emerged. Freddy began tracing the shell companies that had filed counterclaims to Zone 6F. They all funneled back to a defunct corporation, Apex Terra Group, shuttered in 2009 after a series of lawsuits involving illegal drilling in Indonesia, failed uranium contracts, and human rights violations across northern Africa. Apex Terra's senior legal team had direct ties to Canadian mining law firms, and indirectly to the Sable Syndicate's final trustee board before its collapse in the 1930s. Then came the courier. No delivery service, no postal stamp, just a man in a dark coat stepping from a dusty 404 outside base camp and handing Freddy a sealed envelope before disappearing without a word. The seal was red wax, marked with a crude stamp, crossed pics, and a circle. The note inside was short. On behalf of those who buried it, you are hereby instructed to cease all operations. No signature, no legal threat, just authority in ink. The next week, legal notices began to arrive. Unfiled injunctions citing maritime salvage codes, invoked bizarrely under gold reclamation laws from 1882. These statutes had no relevance to landlocked Yukon territories. Unless, Freddy realized, the syndicate had redefined this land as something else. A vault, a buried ship, a foreign claim. Juan, now monitoring encrypted servers full-time, cracked a password-protected spreadsheet hidden in an abandoned Apex Terra backup drive. It contained coordinates, dozens of them, all across the Yukon. Many were in unclaimed wilderness, but one stood out, Keno Hill, an ancient silver mining region where syndicate activity had once flourished. But this time, the coordinates pointed to an adit buried underwater, a submerged access tunnel running 300 feet below the mountain line, sealed in the 1940s under the guise of mine collapse. The logs implied a syndicate vault, larger than anything found so far. Freddy felt the gravity of it settle in his bones. The ghost vein wasn't alone. It was the first, and someone, somewhere, had built 7 more. But before he could chase the rest, he had to finish what the Yukon had started. The ghost vein hadn't just vanished, it had retreated, slipped under runoff, buried itself in water and rock. Freddy believed it hadn't collapsed by accident. It moved, and movement meant there was still something alive down there. Freddy lowered the submersible drone into the icy depths, where the ghost vein had vanished beneath layers of permafrost runoff. The water was black as obsidian, the pressure crushing, but the drone's reinforced hull held steady as it edged forward into the submerged cavity. Flickering lights pierced the murky darkness, illuminating the quartz walls coated with a strange metallic sheen. The footage stunned the entire team. Embedded in the glistening walls were intricate mechanical gears, their cogs frozen mid-turn, etched into the stone, as if the mountain itself was a giant ancient machine. Interspersed among the gears were glyphs, symbols that eerily matched Masonic icons dating back to the 1890s, the same era Freddy Dodge had vanished. The implication was undeniable. This was no ordinary mine, but a purpose-built vault designed with secret codes and cryptic engineering. The drone's camera found a submerged shaft door, welded shut with thick brass bolts, each stamped with a single word, Oblivion 7. The door was solid, decades old but intact, as if guarding whatever lay beyond with unyielding resolve. Freddy's heart raced as the drone maneuvered closer and pried open a weakened section. Inside, they discovered a partial crate filled with melted ore, 4 bars of electrum, their surfaces stamped with the Syndicate's crossed ring insignia. The metal was fused, warped from heat and pressure, but still glowed faintly, as if alive. The drone's sensors began registering unusual pressure fluctuations, subtle tremors crawling through the chamber's core. Freddy ordered an immediate halt. The mountain was shifting. "Something's moving again down there," he muttered. When the team returned days later with heavy equipment, they found the entire chamber collapsed, buried under a sudden rush of permafrost meltwater. The ghost vein, the vault, and all their secrets had vanished beneath tons of rubble and ice. Lab analysis on samples retrieved before the collapse revealed an astonishing truth. The gold bore crystalline growth patterns inconsistent with natural mineralization, patterns only achievable through synthetic processes. The electrum filament that had shimmered under UV light was nowhere to be found. Scans revealed no trace of the vein, no residual filament, nothing but empty rock. Juan stood by the collapsed site, staring at the rubble. "It's like it unmined itself," he whispered. "Or it left?" Freddy wrestled with the implications. They hadn't been mining gold. They had been dismantling a long-dormant machine, a mechanism of metal and mineral buried deep beneath the Yukon. The entire $2.7 million haul was never sold. Freddy stored the precious bullion in a secure cold vault up north, under a trust named Prospector's Will. From part of the recovered metal, he crafted a custom 777-ounce gold bar, engraved with the Dodge family seal and inscribed with a cryptic phrase, "Gold is the echo of silence." When Discovery Channel approached for exclusive rights to the footage and story, Freddy declined. No public airing, no sensationalism. The truth, for now, was buried with the mountain. Rumors leaked quietly through mining circles and encrypted forums. The ghost vein was only one of 7 across the Yukon, each hidden beneath layers of earth, each activated by drilling resonance. An ancient defense system, or perhaps a warning. As Freddy left the site under torchlight, the night wind whispering through the trees, he murmured, "Some veins aren't gold. Some are warnings shaped like treasure." If you want to uncover more hidden mysteries, explosive discoveries, and the untold stories lurking beneath the surface, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Drop a comment below with your theories. What do you think really lies beneath the Yukon's frozen earth? Your support keeps these adventures alive. Don't miss what's coming next. Join the hunt, right here, right now.